How flour became more dangerous than gunpowder. Flour, the stuff you use to make cookies, bread, pancakes. It's also the stuff that leveled entire city blocks and killed hundreds of people. I'm not talking about some ancient history disaster. I'm talking about industrial explosions that were so powerful they were heard 10 miles away. Explosions that blew 7-story buildings hundreds of feet into the air. Explosions caused by, baking flour. Yeah. The same thing sitting in your pantry right now. In fact, if you've got a bag of flour in your kitchen, you're technically sitting on a pile of fuel more volatile than a gas leak. All it needs is to get airborne. May 2, 1878. Minneapolis, Minnesota. 7 p.m. The Washburn Mill, the largest flour mill in the world, is running its night shift. 14 workers are inside grinding wheat into flour. Then, in a fraction of a second, the building ceases to exist. 3 massive explosions. One after another, each one louder than the last. The concrete roof, weighing hundreds of tons, launches into the sky like a missile. Debris rains down across several city blocks. The shockwave shatters windows 10 miles away in St. Paul. People thought it was an earthquake. Others thought a train loaded with dynamite had exploded. Some genuinely believed the world was ending. The next day, the Minneapolis Tribune wrote, "Minneapolis has met with a calamity, the suddenness and horror of which it is difficult for the mind to comprehend. 14 workers inside the mill, gone, instantly." But it didn't stop there. The explosion threw burning debris onto 2 neighboring mills, the Diamond Mill and the Humboldt Mill. Within minutes, those mills exploded too. 4 more workers dead. Total death toll, 18. 6 mills completely destroyed. 1/3 of Minneapolis's flour production capacity wiped out in under an hour. And the cause? Not sabotage, not a gas leak, not faulty machinery. Flour dust. Literally just flour, hanging in the air. Now you're probably thinking, hold on, flour, the stuff I bake with, that explodes. Yeah, and not just explodes with the force of a bomb. Here's the science, and it's wild. Flour is mostly starch. Starch is a carbohydrate, basically sugar molecules chained together. You know how sugar burns? Ever light a marshmallow on fire? Flour burns the same way, easily. But here's where it gets dangerous. When flour sits in a bag, it's harmless, compact, dense, not enough surface area exposed to oxygen to ignite quickly. But when you grind wheat into flour, or when flour gets disturbed and floats in the air as dust, each tiny particle is suddenly exposed to oxygen on all sides. A single kilogram of flour, if you broke it into dust particles the size of flour grains, would have a surface area of 120 square meters from 1 single kilogram. That's not a bag of food anymore. It's an aerosolized bomb waiting for a cigarette butt. And when you have that much surface area exposed to oxygen, you don't get a slow burn. You get rapid combustion, an explosion. It only takes 1 to 2 grams of flour dust per cubic foot of air to create an explosive mixture. That's it. A tiny amount. 1 spark, from friction, static electricity, a hot surface, and the whole cloud ignites. The first grain burns. That ignites the grains next to it. Then those ignite the grains next to them. The flame front flashes through the dust cloud in milliseconds, faster than you can blink. The air heats up instantly, expands violently. And if you're in an enclosed space, boom, the pressure blows out walls, launches roofs, turns a building into shrapnel. This isn't theoretical. This is what happened in Minneapolis. 2 millstones inside the Washburn Mill were grinding against each other, dry stone on dry stone, creating friction, creating heat, a spark. That spark hit the flour dust hanging in the air, and the entire building turned into a bomb. Investigators later confirmed it. 2 professors from the University of Minnesota ran controlled experiments. They proved that flour dust, when suspended in air and ignited, explodes with devastating force. The Washburn disaster made national headlines. People were shocked. How could flour, something so ordinary, so harmless, cause such destruction? But here's the thing. It wasn't the first time. December 14th, 1785. Turin, Italy. A bakery warehouse explodes. Multiple workers die. An Italian count, Carlo Ludovico Marozzo, investigates. He's one of the first to document that flour dust can explode, but nobody listened. Throughout the 1800s, flour mills kept exploding, grain elevators, bakeries, over, and every time people acted surprised. Between 1976 and 2017 alone, just in the United States, there were over 500 grain dust explosions. 184 people died, 677 were injured, and that's just the ones that were officially reported. Flour isn't even the only culprit. Any fine organic dust can explode under the right conditions. Sugar explodes. Sawdust explodes. Powdered milk explodes. Non-dairy creamer explodes. Seriously, Mythbusters even proved it. Cornstarch, pudding mix, even dried tea leaves. If it's a carbohydrate and it's ground fine enough, it can blow up. During World War II, the British government had to develop special protocols to protect flour mills from German bombs. Not because the bombs would destroy the mills directly, because the bombs would create dust clouds that would then cause secondary explosions far worse than the bombs themselves. Think about that. Enemies weaponizing flour. So why don't we hear about these explosions all the time? Because after Minneapolis, the industry finally woke up. Cadwallader Washburn, the guy who owned the destroyed mill, didn't just rebuild. He revolutionized the entire industry. He brought in an engineer named William de la Barre from Philadelphia. De la Barre had designed something new. Dust collectors, ventilation systems that sucked flour dust out of the air before it could accumulate, kept the particles from ever forming explosive clouds. Washburn installed them in his rebuilt mill. Then he did something surprising. He shared the technology with his competitors. Yeah, his competitors. The guys he was supposed to be crushing in the marketplace. Why? Because he didn't want this to happen again. To anyone. By the mid-1880s, mills across Minneapolis, and eventually across the country, were installing dust collection systems. The explosion risk dropped dramatically. If you think this story messed with your head, hit subscribe right now. Because we're about to dive into more disasters you've never heard of. Conflicts and catastrophes that changed history in the weirdest ways possible. But even with all that knowledge, the danger never went away. Imperial Sugar Refinery in Port Wentworth, Georgia. Workers were doing routine maintenance. Sugar dust had accumulated in the silos and conveyor systems. Not unusual, just part of the job. Then something, maybe an overheated bearing, maybe static discharge, ignited the dust. The initial blast was catastrophic, but that was just the beginning. The explosion kicked up, settled dust throughout the entire facility. Dust that had been sitting on rafters, pipes, equipment. Years of accumulation. All of it became airborne at once. Secondary explosions ripped through the building, one after another. A chain reaction of fire and pressure. 14 people died. 40 more were injured, many with severe burns covering most of their bodies. Survivors described it as hell. Walls of flame. Nowhere to run. People on fire screaming for help. The facility was a modern operation. OSHA regulations in place. Safety protocols documented. But somehow, dust still accumulated. Inspections got missed. Cleaning schedules got delayed. And people died. West Pharmaceutical Services in Kinston, North Carolina. Not flour, not sugar. Rubber dust from pharmaceutical manufacturing. Same principle. Fine particles suspended in air. 6 workers dead. 38 injured. The explosion was so powerful it damaged buildings a quarter-mile away. Here's what kills me about these disasters. We have the manuals. We have the sensors. We know the math. And yet, we still let dust pile up until the walls come down. Why? Because dust seems harmless. It's just dust. A housekeeping issue, not a life or death hazard. Until it is. Plant managers look at cleaning schedules and think, we can push that back a week. Production is more important. Maintenance crews see dust accumulating and think, it's not that bad yet, we'll get to it. Workers notice the buildup and don't report it because they don't want to slow down operations. And then someone turns on a machine, or drops a wrench, or a motor runs hot. And in less than a second, an entire building becomes a fireball. The worst part? These explosions are completely preventable. Not mostly preventable or reducible. Completely preventable. You eliminate the dust, you eliminate the risk. It's that simple. But simple doesn't mean easy, and it definitely doesn't mean cheap. Installing proper ventilation systems costs money. Regular cleaning takes time. Monitoring dust levels requires constant attention, so companies calculate the risk. They run the numbers. They figure the odds of an explosion are low enough that it's cheaper to pay potential fines than to invest in comprehensive prevention, until someone dies. Then there are investigations, OSHA citations, lawsuits, settlements, and maybe, things change for a while. But memories fade, budgets get tight. New management comes in who didn't live through the disaster, and slowly, dust starts accumulating again. The Washburn Mill explosion taught us everything we needed to know about flour dust hazards. That was 1878. We've had nearly 150 years to get this right, and we still haven't. Because knowledge isn't enough, regulations aren't enough. You need people who care, who take the threat seriously every single day, who understand that dust isn't just dirt, it's potential energy, waiting. The next time you're baking and you see a little puff of flour dust rise up when you open the bag, that's the same stuff that destroyed the largest mill in the world. The same stuff that killed 18 people in seconds. The same stuff that's caused hundreds of explosions and hundreds of deaths. All because of chemistry, surface area, oxygen, heat. So yeah, flour became more dangerous than gunpowder. Not because it's more explosive ounce for ounce, but because nobody expected it. Gunpowder, everyone knows that's dangerous, you handle it carefully. Flour, it's just food, until it isn't. The Washburn disaster changed Minneapolis, changed the milling industry, changed how we think about workplace safety. But it took 18 lives to learn the lesson. And even today, with all our knowledge and regulations, dust explosions still happen. Because the science doesn't change. The risks don't go away. We just have to stay vigilant. More stories like this? We've got them. Conflicts, disasters, and bizarre historical events that'll change how you see the world. Hit subscribe. This is just the beginning.